Political or economic event. Radio Algeria International, our voice in the world.
This is the English service of Radio Algeria International. It's time for the news.
The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, has received the head of the Movement of Society for Peace, Mr. Abdelali Hassani Sharif, and his accompanying delegation. The Polisario Front has strongly condemned the recent arson attack on the offices of the Danish NGO Global Action, calling it a heinous attack. And the Palestinian resistance movement and the Israeli occupation are set to take a proposed ceasefire deal to their leaders for final approval within the next 24 hours. And those were the major developments. Now the full news edition. Good afternoon. The President of the Republic, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has received the President of the Movement of Society for Peace, Abdelali Hassani Sharif, and his accompanying delegation. The meeting was attended by Mr. Boualam Boualam, Director of the Office of the Presidency of the Republic, and Mr. Kamal Sidi Said, Advisor to the President of the Republic in charge of the General Directorate of Communication. The President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, Mr. Abdelmajid Tebboune, has chaired a meeting of the Council of Ministers during which a draft law on social insurance has been adopted. The details with Jamal Salmani.
During the meeting, the draft law on social insurance has been adopted, thus enshrining the right of women to wages and benefits equal to those of men, and granting working women a 6-month maternity leave instead of 3 months. The President of the Republic hailed the high level reached by Algeria in terms of women's rights and gender equality in accordance with the principles of the Declaration of November 1st and in respect of the participation of women in the Liberation Revolution. Meanwhile, ahead of the holy month of Ramadan, the Council of Ministers insisted on the importance of exercising caution and vigilance with regard to any attempt to undermine the product's availability in markets. It also insisted on updating and intensifying control systems while continuing the fight against speculation by imposing the heaviest legal sanctions against all attempts of speculation. Regarding a presentation on strengthening trade union action and social dialogue, the President stressed that the right of trade union to exercise is guaranteed in Algeria and that the state is committed to respecting it. He also insisted on trade union reorganization and adaptation to the new adopted law with the aim of strengthening social dialogue in all sectors.
The Secretary of State to the Minister of Foreign Affairs in charge of African Affairs, Ms. Salma Bakhta Mansouri, is paying an official visit to South Sudan. The visit comes as part of Algeria's participation in the African Union High-Level Ad Hoc Committee for South Sudan, during which Algeria will ensure its contribution to the efforts for peace and stability in this brotherly country. And the Secretary of State to the Minister of Foreign Affairs in charge of National Community Abroad, Sofiane Shaib, has discussed with his Tunisian counterpart, Mohammed Ben Ayed, bilateral cooperation between Algeria and Tunisia as part of his visit to this brotherly country. During the meeting, the two diplomats praised the brotherly and deep relations linking the two countries, as well as the remarkable development characterizing cooperation in all areas. They also explored ways and means to promote cooperation mechanisms concerning the situation of the communities of the two countries and welcomed the conclusions of the last session of the Joint Consular, Social and Land Commission held last month in Tunisia. The Polisario Front has strongly condemned the recent arson attack on the offices of the Danish NGO Global Action as a heinous act that underscores Morocco's attempts to suppress international solidarity with the Sahrawi people's struggle for independence. Jamal Salmani again.
In a press release issued from its representation to Europe and the EU, the Polisario Front denounced the attack as a direct assault on the values of justice, freedom, and international solidarity. The incident, which involved Molotov cocktails and hate-filled graffiti targeting the Sahrawi people, has been characterized as an escalation of Morocco's campaign to silence dissenting voices abroad. The Polisario Front highlighted Global Action's pivotal role in advocating for the rights of oppressed peoples, including its steadfast support for the Sahrawi cause. It said that the cowardly act of arson was not merely an attack on their organization, but a deliberate attempt to silence those who dare to challenge Morocco's illegal occupation of Western Sahara and expose its serious human rights violations. The organization emphasized that this attack must be viewed within the broader context of Morocco's repression, noting that the Moroccan regime has long employed brutal tactics within the occupied territories of Western Sahara. These include extrajudicial killings, arbitrary detentions, enforced disappearances, and the torture of human rights defenders. The Polisario Front urged the international community to condemn the attack in the strongest terms and to hold Morocco accountable for its ongoing campaign of repression and violence. The attack on global action has drawn widespread condemnation and has highlighted the need for renewed international focus on the Sahrawi people's right for self-determination. Advocates hope the incident will galvanize further global support for justice in Western Sahara.
A survey carried out by the so-called Turn the Page movement in partnership with the Paris-based International Research Center for Political Sciences and among militant networks in 6 African countries has revealed that the rejection of the French policy in Africa has been massive and almost unanimous. It pointed out that the relations between France and Africa had reached a breaking point, as highlighted by the French troops' withdrawal from the Sahel region, Senegal and Chad. Asked about France's relations with the African continent, social media manager Zakaria Ahmad Taleb had the following.
Since
the coup carried out by de Gaulle and known as the Resurrection Operation that resulted in the Fifth Republic, the colonial France has always adopted a condescending and particularly revengeful to maintain its grip on the African continent following the wave of independence that marked the 60s. Such a policy, sadly known as France-Afrique, focused on 4 pillars that chained up the African continent and haunted the African societies. This dealt with corruption, assassinations, coups, and attempts to provoke an economic collapse to encourage insurrections.
Let's note that the survey made it clear that it was necessary to make a clear distinction between criticizing the French state or the French decision makers and the relation with the French citizens. The Palestinian resistance movement and the Israeli occupation are set to take a proposed ceasefire deal to their leaders for final approval within the next 24 hours. If agreed upon, a truce would put an end to over a year of the Israeli genocide in the Gaza Strip. Speaking about the ceasefire agreement, the representative of the Hamas movement to Algeria, Youssef Hamdan, said the negotiations process is taking a positive turn.
We are in the last phase of the process that we started in November 2023. The process is now taking a positive turn. We hope to achieve a conclusion soon, map how to deal, and announce the end of a process whose adoption has been avoided by the Israeli occupation since November 2023. If Netanyahu does not make another political insanity, we will reach an agreement in the coming hours that ends the aggression against our Palestinian people, guarantees the Israeli army's withdrawal from the Gaza Strip, and ensures the return of the displaced people with neither restrictions nor conditions. An agreement that allows in aid without conditions and paves the way for the reconstruction of Gaza in the framework of the special protocol that was discussed during the negotiations process. The Qatari and Egyptian brothers are the guarantors of this agreement. The United States has also participated in the culmination of this process in its last phase. We are ahead of the last phase of this agreement. We hope that the agreement will be reached according to plan. Negotiations are now underway on the formulation of the deal in its final form. We hope to announce a deal to our people and nation to end their suffering.
Let's know that the Palestinians are awaiting an announcement in favor of an immediate ceasefire deal that ends their suffering. Cuba has joined South Africa's genocide case against the Israeli occupation at the International Court of Justice.
According to Article 63 of the Court Statute, whenever there is doubt about the interpretation of a convention to which states other than the states concerned in the case are parties, each of these states has the right to intervene in the proceedings, and in this case, the interpretation given by the court's ruling is equally binding on them. The court explained that in availing itself of the right of intervention granted by Article 63, Cuba relies on its status as a party to the Convention of the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide of the 9th of December 1948. According to Article 83 of the court's rules, South Africa and the Israeli occupation were invited to submit written observations on the Cuban Declaration of Intervention. In December 2023, South Africa filed a lawsuit against Israeli occupier on charges of genocide, and several countries joined the case, including Nicaragua, Colombia, Libya, Mexico, Palestine, Spain, Turkey, and Ireland. The Israeli occupation has continued its barbaric aggression on Gaza since October 2023, despite a UN Security Council resolution demanding an immediate ceasefire.
You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres will travel to Lebanon this week for a visit of solidarity with the country and its people. This was announced by the Secretary General spokesman Stefan Dujarric during a daily briefing in New York.
Saturday, the Secretary General had phone calls with both the Lebanese President, Joseph Aoun, to congratulate him on his election. He also spoke with the caretaker Prime Minister, Najib Mikati. In these phone calls, it was agreed that later this week, the Secretary General will travel to Lebanon for a solidarity visit with the country and its people. In Beirut, he will be meeting with Lebanese political leadership and others. The Secretary General is also expected to travel to southern Lebanon to see the UN peacekeeping force and express his support and his thanks for the work they've been doing in very challenging circumstances.
That was the Secretary General spokesman, Stefan Dujarric. And Sierra Leone declared a state of emergency Monday after the country reported its second case of Mpox in less than 4 days. Health authorities said that neither patients were known to have been in contact with infected animals or other sick individuals, adding that both individuals were receiving treatment at a hospital in the capital, Freetown. Meanwhile, the Democratic Republic of Congo recorded 20 deaths due to Mpox in the first epidemiological week of 2025. To the United States, at least 25 people have died and more than a dozen others remain unaccounted for multiple wildfires waged across the Los Angeles area. About 92,000 people remain under mandatory evacuation orders due to the Los Angeles wildfires in the western United States, and another 89,000 are under evacuation warnings. The fierce wildfires in Los Angeles County, fueled by severe drought conditions and strong winds, scorched over 40,500 acres and destroyed more than 12,300 structures as of Monday. You're still listening to Radio Algeria International. That's it for our news bulletin. I invite you now to listen to our health magazine, compiled and presented by Mohammed Khatel.